Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers podcast, where we navigate the real path to business success, your path. Each episode brings you actionable strategies and real stories from entrepreneurs who are building their business their way. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm your guide through the process of making the inconvenient convenient. Because when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for it. The more convenient you can make it, the better the experience. And that's where you make real progress. Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. This episode, we're taking a look at the S.T.A.G.E framework. And the S.T.A.G.E framework is really about a systematic approach to scaling and growing with confidence. Let's take a look at what S.T.A.G.E stands for. It's growth execution, but what we're doing is we're using S as start, and that's just really evaluating your current position. T is you want to validate the readiness of your business to be able to grow and expand. A is analyze. You want to identify the opportunities. G is gauge, and it's assessing the requirements for you to be able to expand and scale. And then the E is expand, and that stands for systematic growth. Sometimes people are so anxious to be able to grow and expand and add in new revenue streams that they overlook some of the things that are required for them to be able to do it in a consistent way that doesn't allow for fall off in their existing product or services. So this framework is really about taking a look at how to be able to keep what you have working well and be able to build upon it. Because your initial idea, that niche idea that you had that you brought to market, or if you have multiple products or services, that's going to serve as your foundation. What I like to be able to stress with the S.T.A.G.E framework is what we really want to be able to do is we want to evaluate where we are. Let's start with assessing your current position. And when I'm talking about assessing your current position, success leaves systematic clues. So you want to start by documenting what's already working. And when I say start by documenting what's already working, it's important that you don't start thinking about scaling because you're dealing with challenges with revenue or you're overwhelmed and you realize you need to be able to drive more things in. Scaling could be revenue-based. Scaling can be that you realize you have so many customers coming in that you need to figure out how you're going to be able to maintain that without turning anyone away. So when we're talking about scaling and we're talking about assessing your current position, let's look at these factors. Are you someone that's overwhelmed? You've got more clients than you have the time to be able to address them. If that's the case, then part of scaling is you identifying how you can be able to accommodate those people. Does that mean that you're going to bring more people in? Are you going to hire someone virtually to be an assistant to take some of the more repetitive tasks that you can train off of your plate so that you can focus on more of the strategic things? Or is it something where it's more revenue-based? And if it's revenue-based, are you looking to be able to add revenue streams because you are doing so well that now is a time for you to be able to look at ways to be able to expand that? Or is it something where it's revenue-based and you're struggling and you want to be able to add more revenue streams to be able to meet the status quo, to meet the demand of either personal, professional, or both? So it's really about looking at what do you have in place that's going to allow you to be able to test everything out and make sure that you have something that works. So we talked about starting with your current position and really just evaluating what's working. How is it working? Now, let's take a look at test and validating your readiness. When we talk about validating your readiness, this goes back to what I was saying. The best time to be able to build a system isn't when you're overwhelmed. It's when things are running smoothly because you want to document everything. You want to make sure that you have a clear mind so that you're not creating blind spots that you'll have to fill in later, because there's nothing worse than coming up with a great idea and then realizing there's gaps, there's holes that you have to fill in. And once you've brought it to market, then you're splitting your time between, yes, I've got this idea and yes, it's starting to gain traction, but I have to plug some of these holes that had some unforeseen things that if I had just taken my time, I could have figured out how to be able to address them. So you don't want to have to split your time between trying to fix something that you could have taken the time to get right in the first place. So Validating your readiness is making sure that your business is in a position to be able to take on the work that you want to be able to take on the new audience that you want to be able to work with. It's making sure that you have everything in place that's going to allow you to be able to not just grow and take on this new burden or this new opportunity. It's about making sure that you can do it in a way that's seamless enough that it's not going to cost you. We talked about START and the ability to be able to evaluate your current position, what's working, what's not working. We've talked about tests, and that's really just looking at your business readiness. Is it something where you have a process that works well that you realize could be repetitive? Is it something that your business is in a position to scale? I'm a solopreneur, so I know that there's only but so many hours in a day that I can work without burning myself out. So part of my system is evaluating how much time am I dedicating to each product or service that I roll out. How much of myself can I pour into this and into the clients and give them my undivided attention to make sure that I'm not just giving them the results, but I'm giving them the value that's necessary, that I'm walking them through the things that they need to be able to know so that they can move forward with confidence and clarity. Confidence and clarity are really big to me because I want to be able to hand someone something that allows them to be able to repeat it back to someone else and have it make sense. In my corporate life and in my entrepreneurial ventures, I've always made a point of making sure that what I want to be able to do is give you something that not only I can explain, but arm you with enough information so that you can explain it to the people around you, to your business partner, to the people in your personal life. In order to be able to get the proper level of support, you have to be able to explain things in a way that makes sense to people so that if you're asking someone to take on more of a burden, if it's a to-do list in your personal life so that you can focus on the business side of things, you have to be able to explain what it is that you're doing so that people can understand why it's important. And the more confidence that you have in it and the more clarity that you have in it, the more you can explain it, and you can actually put a timeline to it. Give me 6 months, and by the end of the 6 months, I'll already have this in place. And once I have that in place, then it'll allow me to be able to take back the things that I'm asking you to take on and put you in a position where this is not just how I'll win, but how you'll win as well. So analyzing and identifying are going to be things that you really want to be able to do. So analyze and identify opportunities. You really want to be able to identify the opportunity and not just make sure that you have a system and not just make sure that your business is able to scale, but once you have those things in place, it allows you to be able to pick out the opportunities that best align with those things. So again, let's just run it back. We've looked at START, which is your current position, and it allows you to be able to look at systems and the processes that you have in place. What's working? What can I take a piece from here and a piece from here and put it together and allow me to be able to branch out? What can I make repetitive? What is a system that isn't just for one product or service? What is something that could be expanded into something else? So if I'm doing a clothing line, I want to know that I have a process that works for fall, winter, spring, summer. Okay, so we've analyzed and identified the opportunity. Let's look at gauge and assess the requirements. What will it take for me to be able to take that system and that process that I've already identified as something that works really well for me? Then we're looking at test. We've checked the readiness of the business to make sure that this is something that we can do. So when we want to take on more business, whether it's for revenue purposes or whether it's so that we can take more of a step back, our business is set up to be able to do that. Then we identify the opportunities that align with the goals that we have. You've heard me talk about different entrepreneurial types. Some people are going into it so that they can sell a business off. There are lifestyle entrepreneurs who are working to be able to maintain a lifestyle or to get to a lifestyle that they want to be able to have. The reasons for your growth and scale are going to be yours. But what you want to be able to have is a framework that allows you to be able to take those reasons and apply it to your business in a way that makes sense. So when we're assessing the requirements, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, I've got the system and the process. I know the business is ready to be able to scale. I've identified an opportunity that makes sense and it aligns with everything that I already have in place, so I don't have to recreate the wheel. I know I have something that I can implement, and it's more a matter of me adding something to the process than creating a completely new process. And then assessing the requirements is what would it require for me to be able to make this happen? What do I need to be able to bring to market? Do I have the financial stability to be able to make this happen? Do I have the team capability? Do I have the scalability to be able to take off? If this blows up overnight, am I going to be able to take on all the clients that it'll attract? And then there's the requirements for planning. What do I need to do in order to make people aware of it? So when we're assessing the requirements, we're looking at all the questions that are required to be able to answer in order to make sure that this is something that would work. Now let's look at expand. And this is about executing systematic growth, not just strategic, because strategic is having the idea of this is what I want to be able to do. Systematic is, am I checking all the boxes? Am I going through the steps that allow me to be able to move with confidence and clarity? Am I doing the things that I know that I hit this milestone, I hit this milestone, I hit this milestone? When you know that you can check each one of those boxes, it allows you to be able to systematically grow. You don't want to put yourself in a position where, it's a good problem to have, but what happens if you roll out a product or a service and it takes off overnight? How are you going to be able to take on that workload? So executing with systematic growth is about making sure that you have your process documented. If you know that this is going to be something where you don't have the bandwidth to be able to do it yourself, again, as a solopreneur, I know what kind of work I can take on myself. If I know that I'm going to take on more, if I'm going to roll something out and it's going to bring in a lot more business and I'm not able to take it on, I don't want to be the person that has to turn people away. I want to figure out how to be able to make sure that I'm able to accommodate those people, because if they went through the process of finding me and realizing I'm a good fit, I need to make sure that I'm not sending them to someone else that might not be a good fit because I didn't think things through on my end. It's about making sure that you have the bandwidth to be able to take on those extra clients. And one of the things that happens a lot of times is people will bring someone in and they will train them, but they train them without making sure that that person is able to pick up right where you left off. Sometimes you can have a great conversation with someone, you build a rapport, and they say, okay, well, now that we're done with this part, I'm going to hand you off to my partner, and my partner will pick everything up from here. That is a whole new conversation. That is a whole new relationship. That's something that if it doesn't feel seamless, that person feels somewhat betrayed in a way because they felt comfortable with you. And now you're bringing someone else into the fold that they may not feel as comfortable with. So you want to make sure that when you're thinking things through, is it a seamless process? Is it something where you're starting to bring that person in before you do the handoff? So I'll give you an example. I worked at a company where they would do sales and the salesperson would give them the pitch. They'd run through everything. And then I would come on the call and answer their follow-up questions because I was going to be part of the onboarding and then everything that happens after they made that actual investment. So I would be the account manager afterwards. That is just one example. Let me give you an example of the difference between selling something and handing it off and selling something and having that person there that can walk that person through what comes after the sale. What happens after I make the investment? So as a solutions architect, one of the things that I would do is I would go out with the salesperson and the salesperson would go out and say, well, I think they want this product or they want this service. I would listen to the customer or the prospect in this matter and say, okay, well, tell me about what challenges you're having, what obstacles are in your way. How would this be a win for you? Is this a win for you? Is this a win for the business? It would be gathering more information. And once I gathered that information, then I was able to make a recommendation. I can turn to the salesperson and say, okay, well, I know we walked in thinking that this was going to be the best product, but based on their feedback and what they're going through, I think this would be a better fit for them. And here's why. And then I'm able to walk them through the onboarding process. I'm able to walk them through as an account manager, all the things that I would be doing after the investment and after the onboarding was done. I was able to let them know that I'll be the person that you're going to be working with. So if you have any questions, not just about the sales process, but what comes after, let's cover all of those things. That goes back to creating clarity and confidence. I want them to be armed with enough information so that if they're not the decision maker and they're just going to be the point of contact, put them in a position so that when they go back to the decision maker, it's not just a presentation that you're putting in front of them. You're giving them everything that they need to be able to answer some of the frequently asked questions that may come up. You're giving them the information to be able to address some of the objections that that person may have. You're putting them in a position so that you're not just winning the business, you're winning a relationship that allows you to be able to have a strong relationship with that point of contact. That strong relationship with the point of contact creates longevity. So we're talking about systematic growth. You want to make sure that if you know that you're going to expand and that you're not going to have the bandwidth to be able to do all of this work yourself, when you bring someone in, you want to be able to train them on things like that. And you want to bring that into your actual process. You want to make it so that when someone starts having a conversation with you, you don't just hand them to someone new and then they have to start that conversation or build that relationship all over again. You want to bring them in as part of the process. So you can say, listen, I'm the salesperson or I'm the owner. I'm going to be handling this part, but I want to introduce you to this person who would be managing things going forward. Here's what the process is. Do you have any questions for them about what happens after you make that actual investment? That is a much smoother process. So when we're talking about executing with systematic growth, that should be part of the actual system. You want to think through how to be able to set things up so that it's a smooth transition from one person to the next. And then you want to monitor quality during growth. You want to make sure that there's no fall off while you're expanding. A lot of times what happens is someone may create a new product or a service. And when they create the new product or service, they're so focused on the new shiny thing and making sure that they're able to get the audience for that, that they're not necessarily focusing on the original clients that they have, the original product and services. So sometimes they get distracted. Part of doing a systematic growth and making sure that you have a plan in place is making sure that you're not neglecting the existing things that got you where you are, but you also leave room and bandwidth to be able to focus on the new things that you want to be able to roll out. So that's why I said it's not always necessary to come up with a new product or service. Sometimes what you can do is improve upon what you already have. Let's say you have a bestseller. Your bestseller may not be your most profitable product or service. It may be something that you can sell the easiest, but when it comes to the most profitable one, sometimes scaling and growth can be about fine-tuning something that you already have that exists and making it better. So then this way you can actually use that as turning that into your new bestseller. So there are a lot of ways to be able to look at growth and scale. Why I chose S.T.A.G.E is because it gives you a process. It gives you milestones. It gives you boxes to check to make sure that you have it right. Okay, so let's go back to S.T.A.G.E and just break it down one more time to make sure that we have this set. So S.T.A.G.E is growth execution. And the first step is S, it's start. You want to check your current position. You want to evaluate what's working. You want to evaluate why it's working. You want to evaluate when it's working. When we're thinking about the customer journey, one customer journey may overlap with another if you're talking to the same audience and you're just providing something that is an add-on or an upgrade to what you already have. So where I said not everything has to be a new product or service, sometimes you can just take what's already exists and fine tune it and make it better and then use that to be able to scale. You don't necessarily have to create something new. You just have to find the thing that's going to be the best opportunity. So let's move on to tests. And that's validating the readiness. Are you ready to be able to expand and scale? Do you have the bandwidth? Do you have the time? Do you have the resources? If you don't have those things in place, you can plan for being able to scale, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it right at that moment. Let's look at analyze. We're identifying opportunities. If you know that you want to roll something out, you want to plan for it. You want to give yourself enough runway so that by the time you go to launch, you're in a position where you've already promoted it. You may have a waiting list. You may have something where you've already built up a certain level of buzz. If it's a pre-existing service, you may grab some testimonials, some customer success stories, some case studies. You may pull together some information and say, here's where we were. Here's the feedback that we received. Here's how we improved upon it. And in a way, it's not launching something new. It's a relaunch. We took your feedback. Now we're telling you that we listened, and here's the results that we have. Here's the new expectations you can have with this product or service. That is a completely different experience. That is an experience that will allow you to be able to relaunch something that already exists, fine-tune it, make it better, make it more profitable, and you can still work within the system that you already have. All you're doing is fine-tuning it in a way that it makes it something that meets the new expectations of the audience and resets the narrative. When we look at gauging, then we're assessing the requirements. We're looking at what would it take for me to be able to do that. And then again, that brings us back to expand, and that is systematic growth. That is making sure that you identified where you are, you've confirmed that you're able to scale, you've identified the opportunity that best aligns with where you are and your current circumstances. You don't want to look too far down the road, but you also don't want to base it on situations where you're overwhelmed. So always look at the surrounding factors. It's always best to be able to look at growing and scaling when things are going well, because it helps you avoid rushing into something or doing something where you have a lot of anxiety and your focus may not be there, and then you can miss something. And then again, if you miss something, then it means that you have to go back. So if you already have your pre-existing business and your product or services, and then you're trying to maintain that, and then you're rolling out this new product or service or relaunching a product or service, that's you splitting your time. You can do 50-50, but the moment that you have to add something else in, like plugging holes for things that you didn't think through, then that splits your time even more, and it increases your chances of something going wrong. It increases your chances of your consistency, of the results, of your customer support, the service that you provide falling off, diminishing in a way that may alienate the existing customers that were like, everything was fine until you decided to scale. Because you decided that you wanted to chase more revenue. Now I'm suffering. Now you've dropped the ball on this. Now you dropped the ball on that. Now when I call support, instead of it being something where I get a quick turnaround if I call or if I send an email, now it's something where instead of it taking 15 minutes or half an hour, now it's something that takes hours for someone to get back to me. When we're thinking about growing and scaling, we want to make sure that we're addressing those things. So when we talk about business readiness, you want to make sure that you're able to scale, but not have it affect those things. As long as you're able to do that, then you're in a position to be able to grow without upsetting the existing customers, because those are the people that got you there. But then also invite other people in to have the conversation and the same type of experience that the existing clients have. The ones that are happy to be here, the ones that give you the testimonials, the case studies, the customer success stories that allow you to win more of the business that you already are driving in. So again, systematic growth, strategic growth, it can be done for a lot of different reasons. The two main ones are normally someone wants to be able to either take a step back and focus more on being a business owner rather than running the business. And in that case, then you may be looking to be able to scale and grow, but you know that you're going to need to bring other people in to be able to help you do that. So then you have to start thinking through your staffing and how you're going to set that up. And then there's the people that are looking to grow and scale because they want to be able to drive in more revenue streams. In those situations, yes, you are thinking about the bandwidth of how am I going to be able to deliver this, but then you also want to be able to look at, am I chasing the money or am I chasing an opportunity that already exists? And it's less chasing and more me just pursuing something that's already right in front of me. Because there's a saying, if you chase money, money will run. So if you're doing it to be able to generate revenue streams, make sure that it's an opportunity that you don't have to pursue too hard, because if your focus is on chasing that down, then you could end up disrupting your existing services or products and the experience that you're giving. So find something that allows you to be able to systematically grow. You don't have to grow overnight. You can grow gradually and be able to add on to your product suite, add on to your service suite, add on to the expectations that your audience may have. This can be in the form of add-ons and upgrades. It can be something that is just adding on to or piggybacking something that already exists. It doesn't have to be something brand new. It doesn't have to be something that is completely out of left field and pulls you in a different direction and makes people wonder, are you still that same person? Because when we're thinking about brand identity, part of your brand identity is people know you for doing one. There's a narrative that's already out there. We're talking about growing strategically and systematically. We want to make sure that we're not doing something that basically makes people question the brand identity and the narrative that they already knew. And it allows us to be able to build on that narrative. Yes, I'm still that person. Yes, I can still do all of those things, but here's how I'm improving upon it. Here's how I can not only help this person, but now I can help this person. And here's how I did it. And here's how you can tell that I'm not dropping anyone or losing anything with the existing product or services. but I'm expanding it and improving upon it by adding these extra things. When you're able to do that, you'll be able to do it with a lot more confidence, and you'll be able to see a lot more consistency. I hope you found this helpful. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. I will be rolling out Coach's Corner, where I walk through these in very specific steps and give you more use case studies. So for example, S.T.A.G.E, one of the things that I would use as an example is Stitch. Stitch is a fashion, stylist company, and it started in 2011. And when it first rolled out, it was just focused on women. But it was using data collection and stylist information to be able to identify how best to be able to serve people that had more money than time to go shopping, but they still needed to be able to find things that suited their needs and their style. So Coach's Corner, I'll walk you through that as a use case, and I'll walk you through other frameworks and use cases so that it actually makes more sense. Again, I thank you for your time. I look forward to being able to hear your questions, find out if there's any follow-ups, if there are any frameworks, any challenges or struggles that you're dealing with, and you would like me to be able to create a framework for it to help walk you through it. There is the Path Maker service where I create 3-stage frameworks to really walk people through the challenges and struggles that they're dealing with. And then there are other services. There's the entrepreneurial assessment. You want to be able to identify what type of entrepreneur that you want to be and where you are at, so that you can plan out and be more intentional with your whole process and what you're trying to get done. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth a listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.